Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and forever.
Amen.
O my God, I am sorry for my sin before my heart, in choosing to do wrong and in failing to do good. I have sinned against you, whom I should love above all things. I firmly intend, with your help, to do penance, to sin no more, and to avoid whatever leads me to sin. Our Saviour, Jesus Christ, suffered and died for us. In his name, Lord, have mercy.
By the cross of vigil keeping, Mary stood in sorrow weeping, when her Son was crucified. Mary, Mother of our Saviour, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Pilate was certain of Jesus' innocence, and he declared it to the Jews. Yet he condemned him to death. Jesus accepted the unjust sentence for our sins, for greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. Teach us, Lord, not to judge anyone, for you alone know what is in our hearts and our intentions. Strengthen us to bear the pain which is inflicted upon us through perjury and slander. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace. Amen.
While she waited in her anguish, seeing Christ in torment languish, bitter sorrow pierced her heart. Mary, Mother of our Saviour, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة الثانية، يسوع يحمل صليبه. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
Lord Jesus, you said, no one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. For this my Father loves me, because I lay down my life to receive it back. Teach us, Lord, not to fear the strength or severity of pain, but to accept it with love and obedience to your will. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا أنفسنا كفاف يومنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا القديسة مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطأ الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس
كما كان في البدء والآن وعلى الدوام وإلى دهر الداهرين آمين.
ارحمنا يا رب.
ارحمنا.
فلتسترح نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
With what pain and desolation, with what noble resignation, Mary watched her dying Son. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The third station, Jesus falls for the first time. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by the holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus is truly human and feels pain and suffering like every one of us, but even more so because he was completely innocent. Yet he accepts it through love of us. He languished and fell under the heaviness of the cross and the weight of our sins. Teach us, Lord, how to accept our weakness when pain oppresses us and weighs us down, and to bear it patiently. May we fix our eyes on you to strengthen us, so that we may rise above our pain. Teach us also to be kind to the weakness of others, and to help them when they are in pain. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death.
Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the
Mercy
mercy
of
of
God
God.
and peace. Amen. Ever patient in her yearning, though her tear-filled eyes were burning, Mary gazed upon her Son. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة الرابعة، يسوع يلتقي أمه الوجيعة. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
Jesus suffers with his mother's suffering, and Mary endures pain seeing her son's pain. In our families, parents and their children may cause each other to suffer. Teach us, Lord Jesus, to know that we can offer up our pain for your sake. We can test and remake ourselves and convert our suffering into love and patience. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا خبزنا كفاف يومنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن خطأ إلينا ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة النعمة الرب معك مباركة أنت في النساء ومبارك ثمرة بطنك سيدنا يسوع المسيح.
يا قديسة مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطاة الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس
كما كان في البدء والآن وعلى الدوام وإلى الدهر الداهرين آمين.
ارحمنا يا رب،
ارحمنا
فلتسترح نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
Who that sorrow contemplating, on that passion meditating, would not share the Virgin's grief. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The fifth station, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus to carry the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For
By your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
The soldiers took hold of Simon of Cyrene and made him carry the cross for Jesus. Teach us, Lord, how to bear our suffering, regardless of its kind or from where it comes, as a sign of our love for you and as repentance for our sins. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace.
Christ, she soul for our salvation, stirs with heartless acclamation, bruised and beaten by the rod. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة السادسة، القديسة فيرونيكا تمسح وجه يسوع بالمنديل. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
Veronica walked the way of the cross. Wishing to help Jesus and lighten his suffering, she wiped the sweat and blood from his face. Teach us, Lord, to be kind to those in pain and anguish, to open our hands and hearts to them, to ease their suffering and to heal their wounds. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا خبزنا كفاف يومنا، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن خطئ إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين. آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة النعمة الرب معك مباركة أنت في النساء ومبارك ثمرة بطنك سيدنا يسوع المسيح.
يا مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطاة الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس وعلى الدوام وإلى دهر الداهرين آمين. ارحمنا يا رب، فلتسترح نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
Christ, she saw with life love fading, all her anguish unavailing, saw him breathe his very last. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The seventh station, Jesus falls for the second time. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus' physical strength weakened on the long way to Golgotha under his heavy cross. As for us, Lord Jesus, our way to you is long and painful. Stretch out your hand towards us so that we may avoid the way of sin and temptation. Lead us to the light of your resurrection. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace. Amen.
Mary, fount of love's devotion, let me share with true emotion all the sorrow you endured. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة الثامنة، يسوع يشجع بنات أورشليم. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women weeping and wailing for him. Jesus turned to them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Yes, Lord, teach me to understand the meaning of the real suffering which you experienced for me. Our sins cause you pain. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات ليتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا أنفسنا كفاف يومنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن أخطأ إلينا ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين. آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة النعمة الرب معك مباركة أنت في النساء ومبارك ثمرة بطنك سيدنا يسوع المسيح.
يا قديسة مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطاة الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس كما كان في البدء والآن وعلى الدوام وإلى دهر الداهرين آمين. ارحمنا يا رب. فلتسترح نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
Jesus falls for the third time under the weight of the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
The way of the cross has been too long. Jesus' human strength has weakened. We also fall down and almost lose hope on our road to suffering. Do not leave us, Lord Jesus, but draw us to yourself, so that we may become stronger and rise when we fall. May we continue on the way to Calvary with you, and then onwards to the resurrection. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace. Amen. Mother, may this prayer be granted, that Christ's love may be implanted in the depths of my poor soul. Mary, Mother of our Saviour, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة العاشرة: الجند عروا يسوع من ثيابه وناولوه خمرا ممزوجة مرا. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك
بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
They mocked and ridiculed you when they stripped you of your clothes, leaving you naked. They failed to see that you are purity and humility itself, and that your body was protected by modesty. Teach us, Lord, propriety and decency. Do not allow us to put obstacles in anyone's way by our lack of modesty. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا خبزنا كفاف يومنا،
واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن خطئ إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين. آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة المسيح
يا قديسة مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطأ الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس
كما كان في البدء والآن وعلى الأبد وإلى دهر الداهرين آمين.
ارحمنا يا رب فلتسترق نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
At the cross your sorrow sharing, all your grief and torment bearing, let me stand and mourn with you. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The 11th station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they placed him between two criminals and scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself if he is the Messiah." And Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Teach us, Lord Jesus, to follow your example by praying for those who harm us, taking pity on them, asking God to save them from dying in their sins. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace. Amen. Fairest maid of all creation, Queen of hope and consolation, let me feel your grace sublime. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة الثانية عشرة، يسوع يموت على الصليب. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك بصليبك المقدس خلصت العالم.
Before he died, he asked St. John to take your mother as his own, saying, "Woman, behold your son." To become your disciples, we must stand by your cross and take your holy mother as our own. When you said it is finished, you gave up your spirit into the hands of your Father, and the curtain of the temple which covered the Holy of Holies was torn in two, and the tombs were opened because your death conquered death. Grant those parents who suffer for their children the patience, love, and faith to make of their anguish a redemptive offering. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا خبزنا كفاف يومنا
واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن طغى إلينا
ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة النعمة الرب معك مباركة أنت في النساء ومبارك ثمرة بطنك سيدنا يسوع المسيح.
يا قديسة مريم يا والدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطاة الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس
كما كان في البدء والآن وعلى الدوام وإلى أبد الآبدين آمين.
ارحمنا يا رب
ارحمنا
فلتسترح نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
Mary, in your love, befriend me. At the judgment day, defend me. Help me by your constant prayer. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
The 13th station, Jesus is taken down from the cross and given to his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you.
For by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Pilate allowed Joseph of Arimathea to take the body of Jesus from the cross and bury him. The Blessed Virgin embraced her dead son and accompanied them as they placed him in the tomb. She has joined her pain to his pain and made of it a redemptive suffering. In her heart shines the light of hope, having faith that a jubilant victory awaits those who are granted the grace of final perseverance. May we complete in ourselves those Christ-like sufferings that we have not yet endured. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Have mercy on us, O Lord.
Have mercy.
May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace.
Through the mercy of God and peace. Amen.
Savior, when my life shall leave me, through your mother's breast receive me, with the fruits of victory. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
المرحلة الرابعة عشر، يسوع يوضع في القبر. نسجد لك أيها المسيح ونباركك.
لأنك تستحيل المقدس خلص العالم.
All is fulfilled, all is completed. The body of Jesus is now hid in a tomb, and his enemies think that they have defeated him. The apostles are fearful. But Jesus, who carries the love of God to all people, did not remain in the tomb, for love is stronger than death. He rolled a large stone from the door of his tomb and rose to declare to the apostles God's love for them and for those who come to the faith through their preaching. Grant us, Lord, never to despair, for you are the resurrection and the life. Give us that love which conquers death. Amen. أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض.
أعطنا خبزنا كفاف يومنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا كما نحن نغفر لمن خطأ إلينا ولا تدخلنا في التجارب لكن نجنا من الشرير لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى أبد الآبدين آمين.
السلام عليك يا مريم يا ممتلئة النعمة الرب معك مباركة أنت في النساء ومبارك ثمرة بطنك سيدنا يسوع المسيح.
يا قديسة مريم يا وليدة الله صلي لأجلنا نحن الخطأ الآن وفي ساعة موتنا آمين.
المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس
كما كان في الأرض والآن وعلى الدوام وإلى أبد الآبدين آمين.
ارحمنا يا رب
ارحمنا
فلتسترق نفوس الموتى المؤمنين
برحمة الله والسلام آمين.
Let me to your love be taken. Let my soul in death awaken to the joys of paradise. Mary, Mother of our Savior, may we share in your Son's passion, leading us from death to life.
O eternal Father, whom you have blessed the sign of the living cross with the precious blood of your Son, we ask your mercy to those who venerate this holy cross, forgiveness of their sins, and entrance into eternal glory. Through the merits of our Saviour Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today we are celebrating together the rite of the adoration of the cross. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, now and forever. O heavenly King, you hid the crown of your glory and the might of your kingdom, and were lifted up naked on the cross. You redeemed your people and answered the call of the believing thief, granting him entrance with you in paradise. Grant, Lord, that we engrave you in our hearts, hang upon the cross for our sake. If we engrave our lives with your awesome sufferings, then we deserve the glory of your resurrection. We praise you, your Father and Holy Spirit, now and forever. Please be seated.
Have mercy on us, O Lord, and help us. May Christ, our Saviour, show us the way to Golgotha, so that we may follow your steps under our own cross. The cross will be for us the way to salvation and the guide to holiness. may we die with you, so as to rise with you in eternal glory. We praise you with your Father and Holy Spirit, now and forever.
By your holy cross, O Lord, you have saved the universe, which had wandered from your love, lost in darkness now, redeemed by your loving death upon the cross. We adore your cross. Cross of love and cross of life, key of heaven, path of light which leads to you, Lord, leading to your heavenly home. May we follow you and worship you, O Lord. You have saved us by your cross.
Let us keep standing. My God, why have you forsaken me? You are far from my prayer and the cry of my distress.
O my God, I call by day, and you give no reply. I call by night, and I find no peace.
Yet you, O God, are holy, enthroned on the praises of your people. In you our fathers put their trust, and you set them free.
All who see me deride me. They curl their lips, they toss their heads.
He trusted in the Lord, let him save him, let him release him. Is his friend?
Do not leave me alone in my distress. Come close, there is no one else to help me.
Like water I am poured out, disjointed are all my bones. My heart has become like wax, it is melted within my breast.
Parched as burnt clay is my throat, my tongue cleaves to my jaw. You lay me in the dust of death.
My hands and my feet have shriveled, I can count all my bones. These people stare over me and gloat.
They divide my clothing among them. They cast lots for my robe.
O Lord, do not leave me alone, my strength make haste to help me.
I will tell of your name to my people. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, now and forever.
Amen.
May we be worthy to praise, glorify, and honor the heavenly peacemaker who was hung on the cross. He opened his arms and gathered all people. The Lord became flesh and by his cross saved the world. He received true glory and worship from all corners of the earth. The good shepherd who showed his love for his flock by caring for his sheep. He proved how much he loved them by offering himself.
To the good one, are due glory and honor, at this time and all the days of our lives, now and forever.
We worship and confess your divinity, O God, for you created us in your image and formed us in your likeness. We praise your salvation, O lover of all people. On this Friday, you gave us life by your cross and set us free by your death. In the beginning, you completed our creation on the sixth day. Your holy hands formed mortal Adam from the dust of the earth, and you molded and created him in your image. From your own mouth, you breathed the breath of life into him. Thus he was fashioned in beauty and perfected in knowledge and marvelous creation. But in his ignorance, the man wandered Death now entered to distort the image of your creation. But even after thus, O compassionate and loving Lord, your mercy prevailed on the sixth day, another Friday filled with mysteries. Your hands were nailed on the cross. You were humiliated and your side pierced in order to give life to all peoples. New life flowed with the blood and water from your side, and you won peoples back and renewed them. Again today on this Friday, your saving passion and the memorial of your life-giving cross, the Church petitions you through the mouth of her children with the fragrance of this incense. As in the beginning you created out of love, and then returned to save and give life, visit us once again, your creation, by your cross. By your cross remove anger, and put an end to war. By your cross eliminate strife and conflicts. By your cross calm disorders and pacify the angry. By your cross humble the proud, expose the self-serving and remove the enemy. By your cross restrain violence and anger. By your cross establish your church in strength and make her monasteries firm. By your cross let the priests be honorable and the deacons reverent. Sustain the elderly, subdue the haste of youth and raise the young. By your cross pardon sinners, forgive wrongdoers, and guard your flock which now worships you. For your church glorifies in the sign of your cross. Save us and all your people, completely perfect in us your strength. Visit us and revive us, so that our image may be renewed and our likeness recovered. May we emerge from this mournful vigil with every tear wiped away in the hope of your consolation. Then we shall wear your glory and put on your light. Make us worthy to meet the day of your resurrection, as heirs in your kingdom. Then without ceasing we shall give glory and thanks to you.
Now and forever.
prophet Isaiah, who has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord has been revealed. For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering and acquainted with infirmity. And as one from whom others hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him of no account. Surely he has borne our infirmities and carried our diseases, yet we accounted him stricken, struck down from God, and afflicted. But he was wounded by our transgression, crushed by our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole, and by his bruises we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have all turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By a perversion of justice he was taken away. Who could have imagined his future? For he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken by the transgression of my people. They made his grave with the wicked and his tomb with the rich, although he had done no violence, and he was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him with pain. When you make him like an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring, and shall prolong his days. Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper. Out of his anguish we shall see light. He shall find satisfaction through his knowledge. The righteous one, my servant, shall make many righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will allot him a proportion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out himself to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
But if in our effort to be justified in Christ, we ourselves have been found to be sinners, is Christ then a servant of sin? Certainly not. But if I build up again the very things that I once tore down, then I demonstrate that I am a transgressor. For through the law I died to the law, so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not nullify the grace of God, for if justification comes through the law, then Christ died for nothing. You foolish Galatians, after you have had a clear picture of Jesus Christ crucified right in front of your eyes, who has put a spell on you, there is only one thing I would like you to tell me. Did you receive the Spirit by doing the works of the law, or by believing what you heard? Are you so foolish? Having started with the Spirit, are you now ending with the flesh? Did you experience so much for nothing? If it really was for nothing, well then, does God supply works of the law, or by your believing what you heard? Just as Abraham believed God and it was reckoned to him as righteousness, so you see, those who believe are the descendants of Abraham, and the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, declared the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, all the Gentiles shall be blessed in you. For this reason, those who believe are blessed with Abraham, who believed. For all who rely on the works of the law are under a curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone who does not observe and obey all the things written in the book of the law. Now it is evident that no one is justified before God by the law, for the one who is righteous will live by faith. But the law does not rest on faith. On the contrary, whoever does the works of the law will live by them. Christ redeemed us by the curse of the law, by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree.
Jesus our Lord, you are Saviour of all, granting to us what we lost through the fall. May we share in your passion too. May we give all ourselves to you. May we worship and sing to Christ Jesus our King.
A reflection on the Passion of Jesus according to St. Luke. Jesus came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he reached the place, he said to them, pray that you may not come into the time of trial. Then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down and prayed. Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me, yet not my will but yours be done. When he got up from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping because of grief, and he said to them, why are you sleeping? Get up and pray, that you may not come into the time of trial. While he was still speaking, suddenly a crowd came, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus said to him, Judas, is it with a kiss that you are betraying the Son of Man? When those who were around him saw what was coming, they asked, Lord, should we strike with the sword? Then one of them struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, no more of this. And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple police, and the elders who had come for him, have you come out with swords and clubs as if I were a criminal? When I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. Then they seized him and led him away, bringing him into the high priest's house. But Peter was following at a distance.
When they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat among them. Then a servant girl, seeing him in the firelight, stared at him and said, "This man also was with him." But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." A little later, someone else, on seeing him, said, You also are one of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." Then, about an hour later, still another kept insisting, "Surely this man also was with him, for he is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." At that moment, while he was still speaking, the cock crowed. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the cock crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. Now the men who were holding Jesus began to mock him and beat him. They also blindfolded him and kept asking him, "Prophesy, who is it that struck you?" They kept heaping many other insults on him. When they came, the assembly of the elders of the people, both chief priests and scribes, gathered together, and they brought him to their council. They said, "If you are the Messiah, tell us." He replied, "If I tell you, you will not believe, and if I question you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." All of them asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" He said to them, "You say that I am." Then they said, "What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips."
Then the assembly rose as a body and brought Jesus before Pilate. They began to accuse him, saying, "We found this man perverting our nation, forbidding us to pay taxes to the emperor, and saying that he himself is the Messiah, a king." Then Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You say so." Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for an accusation against this man." But they were insistent and said, "He stirs up the people by teaching throughout all Judea, from Galilee where he began, even to this place." When Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that he was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him off to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had been wanting to see him for a long time, because he had heard about him and was hoping to see him perform some sign. He questioned him at some length, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. Even Herod, with his soldiers, treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then he put an elegant robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. That same day, Herod and Pilate became friends with each other. Before this, they had been enemies.
Pilate then called together the chief priests, the leaders, and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was perverting the people, and here I have examined him in your presence, and have not found this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. Indeed, he has done nothing to deserve death. I will therefore have him flogged and release him." Then they all shouted out together, "Away with this fellow! Release Barabbas for us. This was a man who had been put in prison for an insurrection that had taken place in the city and for murder. Pilate, wanting to release Jesus, addressed them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify! Crucify him!" Third time he said to them, "Why? What evil has he done? I have found in him no ground for the sentence of death. I will therefore have him flogged and then release him." But they kept urgently demanding with loud shouts that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate gave his verdict that their demand should be granted. He released the man they asked for, the one who had been put in prison for insurrection and murder, and he handed Jesus over as they wished.
As they led Jesus away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and waiting for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the womb that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do this when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Two others also who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we had deserved for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
Hey
فرأى يسوع أمه وإلى جانبها التلميذ الحبيب إليه، فقال لأمه: أيتها المرأة، هذا ابنك. ثم قال للتلميذ: هذه أمك. منذ تلك الساعة أخذها التلميذ إلى بيته. ورأى يسوع بعد ذلك أن كل شيء قد تم، ولكن ليتم الكتاب قال: أنا عطشان. وكان هناك إناء مملوء خلا، فوضعوا اسفنجة مبتلة بالخل على قضيب من الزوفة وأدنوها من فمه. فلما تناول يسوع الخل قال: تم كل شيء، ثم حنى رأسه وأسلم الروح. From the Gospel of our Lord according to St. John. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, Woman, here is your son. Then he said to the disciple, Here is your mother. And from that hour the disciple took her into his own home. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, I am thirsty. A jar full of sour wine was standing there, so they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, It is finished. Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Please be seated. Good morning. Well, today I want to tell you a story. A small one. We have prayed with the Psalms. I will tell of your name to my people. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. This was, the sentence that I have used when I've been ordained as a priest. I'm asking myself today, where is my congregation? There is no one. I am abandoned like Jesus on the Golgotha. Well, thank goodness we've got St. Mary and St. John with us. All of my parishioners, they are dispersed here and there, like the apostles. On the cross, they have run away. I'm not telling you that we have run away, but because of the coronavirus, we are not here. But even if you are not here, even the apostles, they are not here, Jesus has given us our salvation. Whatever happens in your life, the light of Jesus will beat the darkness of your life. This is a precious lesson for me today, and I think for every one of you. This is the first idea of my heart. Secondly, when we think as a human being about the cross, the cross is a sign of humiliation. The Roman Empire, when they used to punish someone and to punish it in a very severe way, they would put him on the cross. Their citizens, the people that they are holding the Roman citizenship, it was prohibited even for the emperor to put them on the cross. And we know the difference of the death between St. Peter and St. Paul. St. Peter was crucified upside down, and St. Paul have decapitated his head because he was a Roman citizen. Lot of time, the enemies of the church, they will say to us, he saved a lot of people. He cannot save himself. He cannot, not dying on the cross. He can choose another type of death. But when he visited our earth, when he was incarnated, he was incarnated in a very poor place. In this way, you cannot say, for example, oh God, look what's happened to me. I'm a very poor guy. He was a very poor guy like you. When someone dies, a hard death, you start to nag on God. Look what's happened. Why you have, permit this? Why you have let my son die in this, this hard death? But my friend, also, he died in a very, very, very humiliating death on the cross, alone. No one with him. No one cared about him. And when we will think about the cross, it is not a sign of humiliation. It is a sign of victory. Because God has managed to really lead something that we cannot, think that one day we will beat this thing. And you know the name of this thing? It's D-E-A-T-H, death. We can run from everything. If you are poor, you will manage, to get something and you will live. If you've got things here and there, you can manage to, fix it up. But when death is coming, you cannot do anything. Why we are at home today? Because we are afraid from the coronavirus. We are afraid from death. And He gave us the answer of it. After death, there is the resurrection. This is why we call this day Good Friday. Are we insane? We are, crucifying our Master today. Is this a good day? A Good Friday? Yes, it is a Good Friday. Because in this day, God has given us the ability to live with Him in heaven. He given us the cross, the way of life for our salvation. With the cross, when we will look upon the cross, we will see the mercy of God on it. If you want to be with God, you need to be merciful. If you want to be with God, you need to give your life to the others as Jesus has given His life to the others. You know something? When He had this conversation with Judas, He called him friend. For God's sake, He called him friend. If I am, at the place of Jesus, I will kill him. I don't know what to do. I will ask the disciples to attack him, to seize him. This is, our human thinking. And we don't think about it. Why He called him friend? Why? Because even Judas, he paid his price. And the price of Judas is the body and blood of Jesus. This is why he tried hard that Judas will seek conversion and not betray Jesus. And this can be applied to us. Every one of us. You are so precious in the eyes of God because your price is the body and blood of Jesus Christ. This is why wherever you go, He will hunt you. Wherever you do, He will always seek your soul. This is why, for example, today in our society, we are trying hard to vanish Jesus from our daily life. Today, can you see Jesus? If you will walk on the streets, in public places, wherever you go, there is nothing. Even, the Good Friday, now it is a holiday for a lot of people. They don't know why we are, today we are not working. If you will see, for example, Christmas now also it's a happy holiday. It's not, it's not Christmas, the incarnation of our Lord Jesus Christ. We are trying hard, really, to abolish Jesus from our daily life. If you are, sitting with your work colleagues and you will do the sign of the cross, they will start to laugh. And sometimes you are, hesitating if I will do it or no, if I will do this or no. I'm telling you, whatever you do, He will be present. Look, for example, to the communist, countries, what's happening there. 80 years without Jesus Christ, and suddenly they are now following Jesus Christ. Whatever we do in our society today, whatever things that it will make us, away from Him, He will come back. Why? Because we are so precious in His eyes. Today is a sad day, yes, but today is a joyful day. Because today is the day that the Lord has made to make us rejoice. Because today we are really living human beings. There is no death. There is nothing that can separate us from Jesus Christ. And the lesson of this day is really to put all of our agony, all of our troubles here in His tomb, and He will manage really to change everything in your life. So join me now in praying, in saying farewell to Jesus for a short time, and after 3 days He will rise again, and He will give us life, and He will give us a beautiful life. We will be His heirs, and we will really be people that they are eternal. Can you imagine? I am eternal. And we should believe it. Our biggest problem today, we are not believing this truth. We are eternal because we are the possessions of Jesus Christ in our life. Amen.
Jesus Christ, our Lord, the Son of God, O sacrifice raised upon the cross, you lifted creation
the giver of salvation to the world. You are the sign of victory in the battle, and put an end to the old sacrifices, and fulfill the sacraments. Through you, peace comes to us, and joy dwells in us. Through you, the Church is elevated, and her children are protected. Through you, our bodies are made holy, and our souls are purified. Through you, our transgressions are wiped away, and our righteousness is increased. Through you, the believers reach perfection, and the living are armed. Through you, Holy Cross, the departed find rest, and we all take refuge on the last day, and with you we walk towards the house of life. We give glory to Christ the Word, who was crucified on you, and to his Father and his living Holy Spirit, forever.
Amen.